My name is Pena. I'm originally from Little Rock, Arkansas, but I live in Hillsboro, Missouri. When I was about 14, Arkansas first got wrestling, and I was playing football at the time, and I was always the tall, lanky kid, but I weighed like 119 pounds soaking wet, so I never really had a good spot in football. And then when they told me that wrestling was all about like your weight and it didn't matter how big you were, that was a sport. I knew that was a sport for me, and it's kind of been history ever since. I quit football, went right into wrestling, and I actually got to the state finals in high school my 8th grade year, and placed every other year after that. My senior year, I actually won state. You know, I've always been like a really gifted athlete. From the time I was 5, my mom's always had me in athletics, whether it was football, basketball, baseball, anything. I was in every sport. And yeah, I mean, I don't know, you know, I was a huge WWE fan growing up. So, you know, being able to say I wrestled, I just took to it so naturally. It just became something I was super dedicated to. It's surprising. When I finished high school, I never would have thought I was going to be an MMA fighter. Like, I remember in my senior notebook, I wrote down I might take an MMA fight maybe just to see if I could do it. And I thought I was going to be an Olympian. That was my goal, was to make it to the Olympics. And I went to college for a year, and the school life just wasn't for me. It was draining my soul. So I took a year off from college. I started coaching at my old high school, and around the time that the state tournament was coming up for that year, one of my biggest high school rivals at the time had hit me up and contacted me because he was training at an MMA gym, and one of his training partners, Bryce Mitchell, was getting ready to fight a wrestler, and they were like, they knew me, so they brought me in to train with Bryce to help him get ready for this fight, and ever since then it's been history. Once I jumped in for the very first time, I knew that MMA was what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. I just showed up every day, every practice I could, from boxing, kickboxing to jiu-jitsu. I was there for everything I could possibly do. I was a gym rat, you know, I couldn't stop. I went from one gym in Arkansas to another, and then after a little while of kind of building my name in the Arkansas and the southern region on the amateur scene, my old high school wrestling coach, Sean Hickey, told me about this guy in St. Louis named Mike Rogers, who had a legit gym that had produced like 4 or 5 UFC fighters, a bunch of Strikeforce fighters, and guys that are currently in Bellator. So I was like, that's the jump I need to make. So me and him packed up a car. I packed my entire life in a car, drove 6 hours to St. Louis, and I moved into the gym right there at St. Charles MMA. I was living in a room for 2 years that's half the size of normal people's closets, just to be able to train and make my way up, and now I'm here. Man, there was no money coming in. There were days, you know, literally days I woke up in that gym, and I knew the only constant for that day was that I was gonna train. And my goal for the day was to be able to find enough food to fuel myself for training. You know, there were days where I woke up, and my coach actually runs a roofing business. So there are days I go and work 8 hours on a roofing job to make $100 to be able to support myself. And then as soon as I got done, you know, roofing, I'm in 8 hours for training, you know what I'm saying? Just back to back to back. Like this is the life I want to live. So I was ready to sacrifice everything, whether it was time with my friends, time with my family, money, you know, luxury, whatever it was. I was prepared to sacrifice it all to be able to make it to the top. No, you know, obviously my parents wanted me to do the whole college thing. They wanted me to be a regular person, but then my stepdad, he always drove me to every wrestling practice, went to all my matches, recorded everything. He learned wrestling so that we could go over film together. He at first, you know, he kind of thought it was a hobby, and like, oh, you know, Luis, he's probably gonna end up falling out of this. But then after a while, he saw the potential that he saw in wrestling, and he saw that like I could do this, so he supported me 100%. You know, he told me like, you gotta spread your wings, you gotta grow, and if this is what you gotta do, then I'm here to support you every step of the way. Oh no, I'm a very open person, you know what I'm saying? Like, MMA is the end-all be-all in my life, but at the end of the day, I love video games. I'm a huge gamer, and I'm not like your normal, you know, athlete. I don't play Madden. I'm not a big 2K fan. I love stuff like Skyrim and Fallout, you know. I'm an RPG player, and then I also love animals. I actually I live with my girlfriend and her mother on an animal sanctuary, and that's all we do is we take care of animals all day. So it's really awesome. Like, I live a very interesting life outside of MMA. Honestly, I never really saw myself getting as good as I am now this quickly, but at the same time, I also put in, I've been putting in professional level work since I was an amateur. I've been putting in, 6 to 8 hour days in the gym since I was an amateur. So like the hard work and dedication was always there. Like it's honestly not really surprising. You ask my coaches, you ask my teammates, and like they'll tell you I'm one of, if not the hardest working guy in the room. So to be where I'm at, it does surprise me to be here this soon in my career, but at the same time, it's not necessarily something that I couldn't see because I've worked for it. I did all the right things to get here. So actually, I was in Little Rock, Arkansas for I think my first fight since my second amateur fight in my hometown. And it was actually a boxing match. I was getting ready it was the fight week for the Thursday before weigh-ins for that boxing match. And on my I'm just scrolling through my Instagram, and all of a sudden I see this thing that says The Ultimate Fighter Undefeated. And at that moment, I knew that this was my route to the UFC championship. There was no doubt in my mind that this was what was going to take me to the UFC title. And I just said, this is it. I showed my girlfriend, I showed my stepdad, and they said the same thing. This is how we do it. I mean, it is somewhat surreal knowing everything that I do, you say, is going to be on national television. But at the same time, this is nothing new to me. It's like I said, I lived in a closet essentially for 2 years. Like, this is luxury to me. This is the life of luxury. This has been such an easy experience for me, getting through it. Like, mentally, it's been nothing. There's been, things here and there. It's more to deal with like the show aspect that's kind of gotten to me mentally. But when it comes to like the hardships of like being away from family and like being alone, essentially being surrounded by people that you might have to fight, it has not a big deal to me. I actually kind of revel in all of it. As soon as I saw that Daniel Cormier was one of the coaches, I knew that it was a sign, like this is destiny. Back in 2008, when him and Coleman Scott were getting ready to go to the Olympics, they came to the Arkansas Wrestling Academy because my club, the head coach at the academy was Pat Smith, the first 4-time national champion and former assistant wrestling coach at Oklahoma State. And I got to meet Daniel and Coleman back then. And for him to be coaching me now on The Ultimate Fighter, it's like it's come full circle. It's like I couldn't have asked for a better situation in this. Daniel comes from the same background essentially that I do. His practices are tough, but it's like, this is what I live. This is how I grew up, you know what I mean? Like, I love it. It's exactly what I need to be successful in this competition. This moment for me is it's hard to explain because I do feel like this is my shot at an eventual path to a title, but at the same time, I feel like this is the perfect avenue for me to get into the UFC because, let's say I got picked up, I'm just another fighter on the undercard, but through The Ultimate Fighter, people can kind of see me and learn my personality. They can get to know who I am, and I feel like through that, I'll gain so much more fans because I feel like I'm a very personal guy. I have tons of people, I have tons of friends, I have tons of people that love me, so it's something that I think all the people that know me outside of MMA, they know that this is perfect for me. I'm the kind of guy, I'm not saying I'm a reality television guy, but I'm the kind of guy that you want to get to know. Oh yeah, it's so funny, everyone thinks that the violent Bob Ross thing's obviously because of the hair, but I get told a lot that my fighting style is just the way he describes his painting. Calm, cool, collected.